Welcome to the Hawkridge Systems webinar for SOLIDWORKS Composer. My name is Ricky Wynn, and I'm one of the applications engineers here at Hawkridge Systems. Today's webinar will be going over how to produce flawless graphic-based instruction manuals. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, our Lego Darth Vader is kind of alluding to what we're going to be going over. So first thing I want to show you is one concept that I find really interesting. Efficient versus effective, right? So to some people, being efficient is doing things right, while effectiveness is doing the right things. So slight difference, but how does it actually relate to you? In terms of Composer, what we're trying to do is output our images and all of our views to create an assembly instruction manual, right? So how fast and how efficient can we do it? How fast can we create those images? And how can we output them quickly as well? We don't want to rotate and take a screenshot and rotate and take another screenshot, right? So being effective is once we actually have those images and create our instruction manual, if we need to ever make a revision or a change, how painful or how easy is it to actually make that change? And can you have both? And as you'll see with Composer today, we're going to be able to do both at the same time, and Composer does that really well. So the first thing I want to show you is kind of what we're going to be doing today, kind of the 3 steps. And the first thing we're going to do is import the 3D model into Composer. We're going to show you the 2 export options you have, outline some of the specific ones we like to always have checked on, and show you how quick and easy it is. Then we'll kind of get to the meat of what we're going to show you is we're going to create our images, create our views, and then we're going to export them out. And then we'll actually design our Word document manual. And keep in mind any kind of revisions. If there's some geometry that's changed or something like that, how effective is SOLIDWORKS Composer going to be in making that change? So looking at the first one, how do we actually import that 3D model into Composer? How do we start it off? Now, if I look at Composer, say you just have Composer installed. You don't have SOLIDWORKS on your computer. If you go to File, Open, you can navigate to where your assembly file is. So I'll filter it so I see just assembly files. I'll select my Galaxy Explorer and I'll go to Open. What that does is it's going to import, and it's going to use the importer to translate my file from the assembly file into an SMG file. Now what I want to point out specifically is the import profile. It's custom right now, so I can change these options. These options are the import options, and what I want to point specifically out is the merge file into 1 actor per part. And what that does is if you have a part with multi-body solids in there, if you have it checked on, it's going to treat that multi-body part as one single body. Now if you have that unchecked, it treats every single individual body as a part. So if you have 5 multi-bodies in a part, if you have it checked on, it treats it as 1. If you have it unchecked, it treats it as 5 individual parts. Okay, depending on what your design intent is, that's what that option does. Our recommendation is always have it checked on, and you also want to be consistent. We also have import meta properties, which are custom to the custom properties, as well as import as bodies and then import hidden components. Okay, I'll open that and then I'll translate and go into Composer. Now another way in which you can do it, if you luckily have SOLIDWORKS installed in your computer, you can export straight from here. Now you just remember to go to Tools, you go to Add-ins. Just make sure that you either have 3ds SOLIDWORKS plugin or SOLIDWORKS Composer as an add-in. And then you'll go to SOLIDWORKS Composer and then Export. It's going to do the exact same thing, but notice we don't have the import options. So if I were to save over this one, and you'll notice on the left hand side here, it's actually exporting that assembly file right into Composer, and it's actually pretty quick. You can see probably with less than 30 seconds, it's done. So right now it's done. I can open it up now. Now if I go to Composer, go to File, Open, and navigate to where I saved that. And that's the file I just created. Now once again, go into the import options. Which one did those take? Now if you export from SOLIDWORKS, what it's going to do is go to File. It's going to look at the default document properties. So whatever you have here checked on or checked off, it's going to look to these and it's going to say, okay, great. I'm going to look whenever I import it into an SMG file, I'm going to do it via these options. Okay, so these are where you have them checked on. So as you can see, less than 30 seconds, I've outputted it from SOLIDWORKS. Pretty quick and easy. So quick output in Composer, remember, just goes back to the efficiency of how Composer operates with SOLIDWORKS. Or if you don't have SOLIDWORKS, you can bring it straight into Composer. Now we want to take a look at how to create and export those graphic images. We'll kind of get into the meat of our presentation. So using Composer, I actually have one that's already set up for me. So pretend that this has been passed on to us as a team to be able to finish this off. And what I'll do is I'll go through the views. So to go through the views, I'll just be on the Views tab. The Marketing 1 and Marketing 2 are pretty much just different camera orientations. This has the entire assembly. If we go to step 1A, notice the components are in exploded state, and also we have this guy in red as well. So what that does, if I go to step 1B, you notice two things happen. The color changes, as well as the component moves into position. So color change, which signifies, it's pretty much saying, okay, draws your attention here. That's what our focus is going to be on. And then it's going to move into position. So two things are happening between A and B. Go here. Our component's in red, and it's hovering over where it's going to be placed. Switch over to B, and then it comes into place. So really easy workflow, whether you're going to be the one actually designing this, from start to finish. It's a pretty easy workflow. Of course, you don't have to always follow this workflow, but it's one that's easy to comprehend. Now, if, say we're one that didn't create this from start to end, we want to actually see what's going on. We can go through these individual steps either by double clicking or zooming up top, go to the next view, and you can really go in between and figure out what's going on. Well, what's the difference between A and what's the difference between B? So our job is, what we're going to do is finish up step 24. As you'll see, we have 24A here. So we're going to create a step 24B, and then we're going to do a 25A and 25B to finish this up. Just finish up, and then we'll export out the images. Now you remember with 24A, right? All the A steps, they have the actual components showing in exploded state and also red. So we don't know which components those are, but if I go back to my marketing, which has everything, you'll see those components fly in. Now for me, I want to do it in 2 steps, and that's what I've been instructed to do. So if I go to assembly, and I have pretty much, it's like my feature manager in SOLIDWORKS where I have all the components listed. If I minimize this, I actually have a selection set created for me. They've already said, okay, focus on these certain components for this 24 step and then do the rest for 25. Okay, so I don't want them all coming in at the same time. It might be a little confusing, right? We're taking it step by step. So for the 24th step, I want all these components to appear in red. If I go back to step 24A, I want all of those guys, as you can see, you can see them, the outline just a little bit. I want them to be in red, and I also want them to be in exploded state. So right now, to make them visible, I'm going to, that's controlled by the opacity property. So I'm going to turn it from 0 to 255. I can either drag this over here, or I can insert the value, which is 255. That's the max. So that turns it from hidden to visible. Now I want to make sure the color is red. So I just switch the color for all of them. You see how I still have them all selected. All I need to do now is select the view and say update view. Now it has all the components there. So that's all we need for step 24A. Now if I create a new view, I can either select it and go to create view. To rename this view, I can click F2 and go to step 24B. Remember with step 24, whenever the B step, what we want to do is change the color as well as restore it to the original position. So remember before when I was working with things, there is a restore neutral position, right? So if I select all of my components, if I can individually select them, but notice I also have a selection set, right? Something that's already been created for me, luckily. If I select it, Go to restore neutral position. Notice how it does fit into place where it was originally, but the colors don't change, right? So with restore neutral position, it just does position. It doesn't do the color property. So there's actually another option way we can do that instead of individually selecting all these components and making them the correct color. I can undo that, what I just done. While still having them selected, I can do a restore neutral properties. That does the neutral position as well as the colors themselves. I'll go back to views and then update my view. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to either, if you're the one currently doing this, or this has just been handed to you, you can figure out, if you know a composer, how to pick it up, how to actually follow the workflow, and then go from, figure out what you need to do. Now, next step is, I like the orientation of, as you can see, you can zoom in, zoom out with the camera, but that orientation, I want to maintain that. As I go from step 24A to 24B, notice the camera doesn't change at all, right? And that's just more of the consistency when we actually output these images. I don't want to be constantly one where it's zoomed in and zoomed out. It might get a little confusing. So I want to maintain that camera. So I'm going to save out a camera view by going to the second button, creating camera view. I'll label it camera view. I'll delete it later, I don't need it. But that's basically to maintain my orientation. So if I go, remember I want to do 25 steps, right? So I'm adding one more step. I'm going to go up to my marketing image because I know that has everything. So all the rest of the components I need. Like I said, I can individually select those if I know which ones they are, but either way, easier way is to do a selection set. Unfortunately, there wasn't one created for me already, but that's okay. I can kind of use Solid Composer to figure out which ones I need left. So scrolling down all the way here, I can go to camera view. Notice how camera view only puts it in the orientation of the camera. It only switches the camera. It doesn't affect any of those, any explosions or transformations of the components or the colors, just as a camera. Now I'll create a new view. This is going to be my step 25A. And remember, with all my A steps, right? It's exploded the components, the rest of them in this case, and they're also red. So I need to figure out, I need to grab all those components that are left. So I know step 24B has everything I've already done, and 25A has everything that I need, right? So if I think of it kind of like an equation, step 25A has everything, step 24B has the things I've already done, so the difference between the two is what I need to grab, right? So I'm going to select all my components here, click on 25A, and the ones that are not highlighted are the components I need to add in. So I can go to Home, Visibility, and hide the selection of whatever I selected. That leaves me with the components I need to change. I need to explode out and also change the red so we can focus on those. Great. Now before I do that, before I make any changes, I'm going to select all of them. I'll create my own assembly selection set so I don't have to always window select. I'll just make sure they're all selected, go to Assembly, and turn on the Create Selection Set. And I'll name this 25th step. I'll go to Views, and I won't mess with this one. I'll go ahead and just create another view real quick. This will be a dummy view that we work with. And now you can have some fun. You can select all of them, and you can turn this red. And then now we can go to the Transform, use the Translate tool to move these around. Pretty just moving these components off of the actual position of the Galaxy Explorer. Move it up and over. As you can see that the camera view itself changed a little bit. I can always go back to the camera view and switch it back. Beauty of what we have the camera view for. Move it over, And if I like the position of how I place that one, I can always select this one and go to copy transformation and select that one and then move it off just a little bit. I'll window select all of these and move them up. As you can see, I forgot one. If I want to maintain this one with all the other ones, I'll just select it and go to copy transformation. Let's select any of the three, and there we have it. I can update this view, or I can also select the other 25A by holding down Control. And I need to tell it I want to update views with selected actors. Now you'll notice it's grayed out, and that's because we don't actually have any actors selected. It doesn't know which one to update into those views. So I'll go back to my Assembly tab, select my 25th step, and go to Views. See how View 3 and Step 25 are still selected, but then this one is also available too. So if I select it, in View 3 it's going to update with the colors and exploded, but also in 25A it's going to do the exact same. So frankly, I don't need View 3 anymore. I'll delete it. And Step 25A is all I need to worry about. And to be honest, Step 25A is done. If I go right click and say copy and right click paste, that's another way in which you can create a view. Just F2, change that to 25B. And remember, anything between A and then also to B, in B it's restoring it to its neutral position and then the color as well. Now, easiest way to do that, remember it's not restore neutral position, but it's actually restore neutral properties. One thing we want to remember is we actually have to say which components we want to do that for. In this case, it's all the components in the 25th step. Go to node transformations to turn off that triad we have, and then do restore neutral properties. Go back to views and then update that view. Looks pretty good, and we're almost there. Now if I go to 24A, I can see it explode out, and then into 24B, go to 25A, you actually see a couple things. The components turn from their neutral color to red, and they're also in its collapsed position and explodes out and gets into position. And that happens all at once. In between views, that's okay, but when we're actually maybe doing animation, it might get a little bit confusing what's going on. Imagine as if you had a stage with actual physical actors and they were moving into place as between intermission or something like that, right? Could get a little confusing. What happens if we have all these actors already in place, as you see them here, and just show up? So, of course, this depends on if you want that to actually happen. So let me show you how you can do that. So what I'm going to do is go back to assembly. I want to make sure I select all the components I need using the 25th step selection set. Go to views, and 25A I actually have them showing. In 24B, I'm going to hold down control so I select both of them, and I'm going to say update that view with selected actors. So now I actually should have it showing in 24B as well. So in 24B, I'm going to activate it. And what I want to do is, remember before when we had the components hidden, that was done through the opacity property, right? It was originally 0, we moved it to 255. Same thing for these components. I'm going to select them in 25th step. And what I want to do is for the opacity, I want to do the reverse. I want to go from 255 to 0. So what it's doing is, it's just hiding it, but it's hiding it in that position. I'll update the view. Even though it looks the exact same as it before, if I go to 25A now, notice how the components just appear, right? Of course, it depends on if you want that to happen. It's more visible in between animations as it is views. Like with views, you would just see it as is, right? But that's how you would do that. So now we have 25A, 25B. You'll notice over here, we have labels for step 24, but don't exactly have for step 25A. Now, I can be a little bit more specific here. For step 24, I can edit this. I'll select this label, and under my properties, I'll edit the text string to say 24A. make sure you press enter. Update that view. Go down to step 24B. Change that to B. Update that view. Do the same for 25, but notice that I don't actually have the label there, so I just got to show it. It's actually there, it's just being hidden. In this case, there's no actual opacity property. You're going to go to collaboration, go to panels, and go to step label. We're going to change that to step 25A. Update that view. And in step 25B, I'll make it show and change it to B. And update that view. So almost helps us track exactly where it's going from A to B and also which number it is. I'll delete this camera view, don't need it. And then now we actually have all our images. So as you can see, once again, efficiently being able to figure out what's going on with the actual images and what's going on with the assembly manual. A, B, the components are red, tells you what you focus on and how it's being exploded, and then also how it's going to collapse. Now going to our workshop, go to high resolution images. I don't have to go individually to each of these images, right click and do save as. I can go to the high resolution image workshop, identify my pixels, my size, and my aspect ratios. Go to multiple, and you want to make sure you have views selected. If you don't have it selected, it's only going to save whatever is active here. If you have view selected, do a save as, indicate where I want my folder to be, click save. What it's doing is it's taking the file name, which is Lego Starship, it's doing an underscore, and then the actual view name itself. So it's going to be Lego Starship underscore marketing 1 for the first one, and all the way down to the rest of them. So as you can see, in the time it took me to actually explain that, I did about 4, 8, 12, 15 views, right? All at once. So going back to the efficiency of how fast Composer can do it. If I go to the folder where I'd saved those, you'll see all those here. And really just going back in time. Great. So as you can see, when we're creating and exporting graphical images out, how easy it is to do, whether you're continuing on from someone's work or continuing on from your own work. You kind of know exactly what you need to do. Also efficiently generate those high quality images, right? You can see it happened in less than 30 seconds. Whether it's the quick output from Composer using the SOLIDWORKS add-in or going from Composer into the actual JPEG images fairly quick. Next thing I want to look at is actually putting these JPEG files into a Word document. Simple as inserting those in, and then also any kind of revisions we need to make. So here we have Composer, and we have our assembly manual. You can see there's nothing really in here, just the title. I'm going to go to Insert, Picture, navigate to where I have my folder, and just shift select all the pictures. Now instead of doing Insert, which just inserts the image, I want to do an Insert and Link. When I do that, you can see it brings in all those images individually. And what's nice is sometimes I don't even need a label because it tells me 24A. Next one, 24B, 25A, 25B. So if you don't have to do a caption, you don't even have to. But in this case, you might want to just to clarify things a little bit more. As you can see, it inserted the images in order, and I can resize them as I want to, as you would in Word, any kind of Word document. And if you have this finished, you can output to a PDF file. Now, in the case where you're done, right, but someone in the design team realized that, one of the components here is actually incorrect. If I open it, we actually have an extension. So this is using a different configuration, and what the design team originally wanted was to use this configuration, not the other one. Now, we created all those images already. We created the SMG files and the views. How quick and easy is it? And how effective is it to make any kind of revisions? If I go back to Composer, you'll notice obviously none of those are reflected. So if I go back to my marketing image 1, I'm going to go to SOLIDWORKS, and I can either output the entire file again, and I can switch out that component to the extension and then update it. But if it's an individual geometry or individual part, I can just go straight to the part itself and export that one out to Composer. Save that out. You can see it saves even quicker just because it's an individual part. I'll go to Composer, select the component I want to switch out, go to Geometry, do an update, browse to where that file is, then click Update. It's almost as quick as I selected OK. You can see it swapped it out. Now, not only does it swap it out just for that view, if I switch to another one, you'll see all the views now display that new extension. So probably less than 10 seconds I swap those out. Lastly, what I want to do is output those images I've done, and I want to overwrite the old ones that I've done because they don't reflect the new configuration, right? So to do that, I want to still use my workshop, make sure views is selected, go to save as. To overwrite those, like as you would anything in Windows Explorer or Microsoft, you have to make sure it's the same name. So Lego Starship, and you don't want to select the first one to say _marketing1. What you want to do is just type in Lego Starship. Click save, and it's going to do the exact same thing. Follow the exact same protocol, Lego Starship _view names, and it's going to overwrite those ones. Now, if I close my assembly document manual, and if I reopen it, you'll notice those are stopped out because I did that insert and link. So it's just one other step to where you don't have to reinsert those images again. Even though inserting them is fairly easy, fairly quick, it's linking to those actual images. Now you don't have to always close it and then reopen it. You can do an edit links to files. And basically these are all linking to that picture. So if you want to manually update, you can just select all of them and click update now. It's going to refresh those images, so if they haven't changed yet, they will change after you click update now. Now if you don't have this available, you can go to File, Options, Customize Ribbon, All Commands, and you can search under the long list for Edit Links to Files, which is right here. Go and add it in, and it's available there for you. And then afterwards, after we have this all done to our Word document, if this is no more revisions need to be done, we can output this to a PDF. So what did we see? It was effective communication between the composer and the document using the JPEG images. As long as we made the quick geometry change in Composer, then we can output those images, and by having the link between the images and the actual Word document, it updated automatically for us. Didn't have to switch them out or update them manually, even though we had that option to do so. So let's kind of do a quick overview of what we had done and what we covered. First, we saw how we imported 3D model into Composer, right? Saw how SOLIDWORKS does it, and how we can also do it in Composer as well. The different options, and how it pulls off of the default document properties. All in all, you can probably do it in less than 20-30 seconds, fairly quickly. Next, we did the actual creation and exporting of the actual graphic images. So, ease of use and how we created those images going from A step to B step, and then how we generated those high quality images by using the workshop in multiple views. And lastly, we actually inserted those images into a Word document manual and made a revision as well. We saw that we needed to insert a different component, updated that, outputted those images, and then we have it inside of our Word document. What that means is reduced documentation time in Composer, because you can spend less time with it because it's efficient and it's easy to use, and also reduce revision time as well. So going back to the cycle, it's fine if you can do it perfectly, but most times that won't happen because things change. How easy is it to make revisions? As you can see, it's quite effective at doing that. And I want to thank you for attending. Thank you for watching. My email address is here if you had any questions about the webinar. Our support hotline, our email, link for our existing and recorded webinars, and then also our phone. If you want to give us a call, if you're in the US or in Canada, feel free to do so.